Welcome, everyone, to Palette Prime, the third world. I would say one of my favorites. This world had a more interesting story. They made you do a lot more story-wise in this one.
Yeah, there was more involved with the residents, essentially the NPCs of this world. You kind of got yourself involved more with, I actually kind of cared a bit more about Woodrow here, this warden of this world, as you kind of saw his story played out in those comic strip drawings around the world. But then also, they had the characters like the, Sweet Lopec and the Dryad, and then also the big side quest with, or not
Find
side
the murder mystery.
I guess it was like that.
Or theft mystery.
It was a post, clear story mission, I guess, about the axe mystery. Yeah,
the axe mystery.
Right.
This map is a little complicated. There's some stuff. I remember exploring this area, then realizing there was a whole area in the back we'd never even gone to.
Yeah, behind this village. This is a pretty large map. The village, the forest here. There's a couple of extra stuff.
The forest itself is kind of big too.
Yeah, and all the stuff back behind the village. Not to mention, the first part of this map when you landed here was actually just trying to get to this house, and then
I would say
back here.
I'm okay with the map. I don't think it needed that area back behind the village, or it should have been flipped and put on the left side of this map over here.
Mm-hmm.
I think the village would have been nice against a cliff wall or something like that.
Yeah,
and not had the extra stuff behind it. I think that was all side quests, little mini missions.
It was all side quests.
Find
There's
the
no
stuff.
story back here, sure, but
there's no story back there.
But they could have put more side stuff over here because
there
was one thing in a random planet coin to find as well.
Yeah, and the house.
But
there,
this was a story quest that eventually led back to here. So
yeah,
not much really used up in here. This is all just background dressing right here.
Yeah, I think,
like you said, that probably could have taken some of this stuff and just moved it here while keeping maybe this pumpkin patch area.
I think
that's fine.
I think the pumpkin patch outside the village,
or just right back here,
but not that stuff because I think that made it feel cluttered back behind it.
Yeah,
and it didn't need it. It could have been on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a map designer or anything. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I liked this map and this vibe.
And then when you get into the woods itself,
that was a little bit confusing too because there was a little mini puzzle we couldn't figure out till later on.
Right, and then going down this well also that might have been a bit too much. If it was another sub area within a sub area. It was
a little, and it was a little bit underwhelming. The well too.
Yeah, true. With the fight and stuff like that.
But overall, I mean, I'm saying some negatives here, but actually, I did like this map.
But yeah, very pretty, especially now after the world's cleared out.
That's a reoccurring issue, though, I have with the whole game. I know I mentioned it multiple times as we were playing, that most of these worlds have a nice name and a nice vibe, and you get there, and it's kind of dreary and ugly, and then when you beat the world, it gets pretty.
Yes, and that's the point, but it does kind of suck having to go through that not-so-good-looking world.
70-80% of the time we're in that world, where it's sitting in the ugly world, because we tended to play 100% completion as we make our way through the world.
Yeah, to us it's a little weird that they were kind of, I guess, expecting you to just blaze through the story. Then once you beat it all, you come back and then you 100% the game.
Funny enough, the one world we did at the very end didn't change.
True. Hardly, yeah. It barely changed. Yeah,
it didn't get any prettier, really.
True. we'll get to there.
A little bit of a bummer there, but this is a nice theme. You don't really see too many fall woodland vibe levels,
especially in Mario. I don't know if there's actually. I guess there's one or two maybe in official Mario games. And some other RPGs I know.
This is like Mario Kart Treetop Highway, right? What's it called?
Yeah.
You know what map I'm thinking of, the one that just came back in the DLC.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is I like the vibe here. I like the color palettes. I like the scheme. The story was that depressing, poetic, funny, kind of humor.
Mm-hmm.
I was more engaged in this one than I was in the upcoming one, so I liked this.
And I liked a lot of the music and the battles as well too. I thought that was great. And I think a lot of the enemy types they introduced in this world were pretty nice.
Depleters and
magicians and depleters, so the enemies actually could start recovering health and doing some status effects of their own.
Yeah, I like
that.
So
it's kind of annoying, but at the same time, I guess it's more. You have to put more thought into the battles too. Now, you can't just rush into enemies. They'll actually boost themselves and everything. So
I would say overall this
is it's definitely a step up in the right direction, I think, for what the game needed to do from the first couple worlds, which are fine and good. I think this one then is a great world, maybe a little too much, like you said, the back area, but that's a kind of a nitpick in the grand scheme of things, honestly.
I this one actually put a little story into it, and It was a little bit of a fetch questy, but going talking to people
True,
and doing all that
true.
stuff was fun. And
Yeah.
I liked going to their houses and having a little mystery story. And we had a little love story afterwards, which is crazy in a Rabbids game.
Right.
So you had a little bit of everything. I really like this world. And the pumpkins were, spice lattes were great.
Right.
Really fun. A couple some weird stuff back there. I mean, there are things that fell from the sky during the poems and stuff. So a little bit of weird background here, like the ship and the piano and things like that. But all the worlds have weird backgrounds, so that's pretty used to that.
Right. But I guess while we're here, let's go ahead and talk about next also major points of discussion.
The sparks.
The sparks.
Yeah,
Big-
we've been holding off on this for a
Yep.
little bit while. These things are really important, almost as important as your heroes you choose. Probably
Yeah.
more important,
Mhm.
honestly, in some ways. There was a lot of sparks, 30 in the game to collect. We collect them as soon as we could. They're really vital to changing how the game plays. A couple of nice ones came at the end, but I'd say earlier on you got all the really, really amazing ones.
I mean, you first start off with Starburst here, so we can, just maybe we just kind of pick out a few of the more memorable ones / important ones.
I'm going to talk about themes first for the Starburst, and then we'll
Okay.
talk about
Sure.
our favorites.
Yeah, sure.
So
sounds good.
the downside of Sparks is that they are essentially ripped from the other game, Kingdom Battle.
A lot of them are just the hero's abilities or like their
Put onto
attributes
sparks.
put into a spark.
So you
There's-
used to maybe have like element weapons. They took all that away, and now they'll give you element sparks that increase either your dash, or an element that increases your weapon, or an element that's like an AoE around you. That's kind of the three generic types.
Mm-hmm.
So a vamp dash you activate, and then when you slide someone, you vamp heal yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or a Zephyr Quake is a AoE explosion around you that knocks people back because it applies the gust effect. Or Pyrogeddon is a fire AoE that rains fire from above.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of generic. Ultimately, unfortunately, early on in the game, they give you a lot of these.
These
And
element ones, yeah.
These are pretty boring, to be honest with you. They
Mhm.
don't change the gameplay significantly.
No.
They want you to use them whoever's weak to what element.
Right?
So you can kind of do that. But unfortunately, in this game, at least as of now, when we're recording this, elements are not a big enough of a deal to use a turn to activate them. Like, let's take Mario, for example. He does not have space in his 2 action points to activate a fire element spark
Yeah, you
to then
well,
do a fire
yeah,
because
because you're always wanting to use this technique in weapon damage.
Luigi does not have that option either. Some other characters maybe could, but the problem is there's actually sparks that are so much better than activating a fire element spark.
Yeah.
We're about to talk about them soon. But instead of activating your fire spark, you would activate Starburst or something else.
Mhm.
And that is significantly better.
Yeah.
So because of that, you don't need to take element sparks, or the enemies need to take more damage from elements to make it more useful. But a lot of times there'll be a guy who's resist to fire, a guy who's resist to ice, and a guy who's like, so they don't really stack up. There's 2 different enemy types. So you say, screw it, I'm not going to bring a fire weakness. I'll just take one that increases my damage by a lot of percentage.
Yeah.
So I would say the element ones are okay, but they didn't really implement super well.
I mean, they just don't change up the game
They
format
don't
at
change
all.
up the game
They're
enough.
fine, but I mean, again, they're just kind of things that take
The other-
taken from the first game.
And the big downside is
Usually.
their passives are just immune to the element that they give you,
Yep.
which is only useful in certain situations where you know you're fighting a certain enemy.
Mhm.
But really, once again, the way we play, where we kill everything in one turn as best we can, you just don't need it. We use Burn Protect every once in a while for Bowser.
Yeah.
That's from our own thing.
Right.
If you saw an enemy that maybe you didn't want to deal with, like their gust or their fire, you could technically take one of these.
Yeah.
But it's not a game-changing play style. So I'd say the element ones, almost all of them are down at my bottom tier. Early on in the game, we used Toxic Quake a lot. The green guy up there with the weird face.
Yeah. Just because, it was a good, just flat damage to enemies all
Good
around.
flat
us.
damage to enemies all
To
around.
a bunch of enemies, yep.
That was one of the first AoE ones we got.
Mm-hmm.
He fell off pretty quickly and didn't use them later on
Yeah.
in the game. A lot of those AoE ones actually do kind of fall off. Their damage isn't amazing.
Yeah, they're fine.
I mean, 700 damage is not bad. I mean, it's usable.
If
or so.
And it might be even better if you use them against an enemy that's weak to
Weak
that
to
element.
them. Or you can knock them out of bounds for an extra 650 or whatever damage. So
Right.
there's some situations you can definitely use them. But the problem is, we haven't got items yet that's coming up, but POW blocks trump a lot of these things, so...
Yeah, as well as other sparks.
We'll do way
other
better.
Types of sparks will just do better for that hero with their passives or their actives.
So, elements are kind of meh.
Yeah.
We can talk about summons. They kind of came later into the game, but they're at least another interesting aspect. The summon ones.
Yeah.
Couple of summon ones where you
These are unique.
Those are unique and different from the previous game, and I like them.
Yeah.
I like that they add an element that, to come in and to help you out. The biggest downside to summons is that their AI is totally out of your control, and you're not sure what they're going to do. You have some ideas, but you do not know for sure. I also will say that they filled some niches, but they could have done differently. Like early on, we got the Wild Claw, for example, was one of the first ones.
Yep.
And it was really cool. But later on, you realize that its 3,000 HP is actually nowhere near enough it needs. So I would have almost preferred it be way tankier. I think it should have been tankier. Squashette, we got near the end. I think she's just kind of meh. She knocks the gust damage, but...
Again, AI pathing, just out of your control. I don't know exactly if they're going to be helpful with their attacks or, just in the way.
Oh, one thing I should have mentioned first is that every spark has an active and a passive. And the active is incredibly important, obviously.
Yeah.
But the passive is actually almost more important to a lot of characters.
Yeah.
So the best sparks have a good active and a good passive in the game. And that's what you want to be looking at as we're going through.
Right.
So you might have a great active on a spark, but let's say it's got healing booster. If you don't plan to heal them, or healing amplifier, like the summon Squashette, if I'm not planning to heal Bowser, that passive goes completely to waste.
Right.
So then all you are left with is an active. This one, like the giant, increases your HP by 35%. Also, healing booster is a terrible name for that. That should be something else totally. But that is fine. That is a nice increase in your health. That's good. But once again, other sparks will give you damage increases, and so maybe you don't need that.
Yeah.
So that's where when we talk about best sparks, which we're about to do, that's something that you have to factor in as well.
Exactly.
Some other more unique ones.
Like this one.
Besides the summons.
The only one that can revive. Actually, the only way to revive.
Only way to revive.
In the battle.
In the battle. There is no revive item either.
No.
That's actually unique. I always thought there might be, but there's not. That's the only revive item. There's also not a healing spark either. Not a AoE healing spark.
Not an AoE, just the self-healing one. It's over a few turns as well.
We make this a little bit weaker. They made it so it starts healing the next turn, not initially.
Yeah.
But that one's pretty good.
But when maxed out, it's 40% of their max HP for 3 turns. So if you don't take any damage over those 3 turns, or even if you do take a little bit of damage, you're going to heal it all back up after those turns.
There was a couple of defensive, or at least a defensive spark too. 2 of them. There's Reflector and...
those are actives, yeah. Reflector, and then you have Exosphere.
Exosphere. Both of them are incredibly good. Ones that we're going to talk about too. We're about to get to our best list
damage
in a
reductions,
second.
And some passives were also like physical protector. You can physical damage, but that doesn't happen too often. It's like, what is it, slides or maybe some stomp, like splash damage like that maybe? Not splash damage, sorry. I guess maybe...
No, I think gun damage is physical.
Is it?
I think it's just like the bounce and stuff or other things when they apply it is not. I'm not sure though on that.
Yeah.
But anyways, actually with these defense ones and boosts, you can actually get to the way the game works in defensive stacks.
Oh yeah.
You can actually get to over 100% damage reduction, meaning you take 0 damage.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy.
That's pretty crazy. So you can make some interesting things work out.
So we got summons, defensive boosts. Now we got the last
element ones, right?
And all the element ones. Now the elements, like we said, there's dash elements, there's gun elements, and then there is AoE elements.
Yeah.
Is kind of the generic way to break
them out. And also there's area effect, AoE elements. AoE elements, sorry. The
like Skyrain Burn and that makes meteors come down.
Right.
They are all okay-ish. I would say we end up using mostly the dash ones because a couple characters like to dash and it's pretty easy to apply. But we also had characters like Peach who had some empty slots, and we did give them a couple of weapon ones.
Just because it does boost your weapon damage.
Boost your weapon damage.
And gives them
an effect.
Yeah, the unique attribute.
Once again, though, like we said, characters that do a lot of damage, like Luigi or Mario, already are going to have they also have a great technique,
Mm-hmm.
so they don't have the option to use a spark as well to boost their damage.
No.
Only a few characters do great damage and can potentially use a spark. That being probably Mario being the best example.
Yeah.
Edge does pretty good damage too, so she could technically use a weapon boosting spark. But because her dashes were so good, we went down the dash route for her.
Yeah.
To give her dash boosting sparks. Now we come to the last few interesting sparks. The unique ones are always my favorite with unique abilities. There was not too many in this game. One downside of this game is I really do wish they had way more unique sparks. It got a little bit boring to see all the same ones over and over. But the unique ones kind of come to Glitter and Screech, which are both kind of movement-based ones. They force the enemy to move.
Yeah, for the enemy movement-based ones, right?
I should say they force the enemy to move. So I guess they're kind of similar in that sense. We got Screech first. Screech was initially one of our favorite ones. It pushed enemies away. When you push enemies away, that triggers Mario's Hero Sight or Luigi's Steely Stare.
Yeah, this was Yoshi's blah attack.
This is Yoshi's blah attack.
Since he's on this game, they just give it to a spark.
This also has Critical Buddy on it, making Screech a very good one.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for Screech, his big brother Glitter came around eventually.
Yeah, actually in this world, funny enough.
And put him out.
Yep. Put him out of business.
Put him out of business.
Yeah.
When we talk about best sparks
enemies,
in the game, Glitter is up there. So Glitter does the opposite of Screech. It pulls enemies towards you, where Screech pushes them away. But Glitter has a bigger range, 19 meters compared to 17.
Mm-hmm.
When we found Screech, enemies maybe move like a space or two. They would not move. They would max.
Yeah, maybe not the max.
When we used it,
right?
It was like 2 squares.
It'd be a little weird, right? You can tell exactly how far they go.
Glitter in this game did a way better job than it did in the previous game, where they would start moving, but they wouldn't always move towards you.
They wouldn't move all the way to you. They just move somewhat towards you and then stop. But
Glitter, I'd say in this game, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, enemies get all the way next to you.
Yep.
To the point where you trap yourself because you can't even get out of there.
Right.
But whoever uses Glitter, and here's the cool thing about this game, whoever uses Glitter, they all run towards. You can do it with, let's say, a weak character, because using sparks does not root you in place.
Right.
So you can use a spark, have everyone move to you, and then you can leave.
Yeah, just dash out of there.
And get out of there. Yep. And now all the enemies are grouped up somewhere, and they are free game for your AoE characters to come in and have fun with, whether that's a Peach, a Bowser. In our case, it was Mario.
Yeah.
They gave Glitter, which has probably one of the best actives in the game,
one of the
best passives in the game.
Attack Master, just essentially just
a free 30% damage to whatever character is using this.
Yeah. That's just insane.
It did not need that passive. It should not have this passive, to be honest with you. That is too good for it. But it got both, which makes Glitter one of the best.
Yep.
However, Glitter might not be the best. That probably goes to
Ethering
or one more other one, but we can talk about Ethering too. Because Ethering is another amazing one that's it's hard to say because this is so unique to everything else.
Right.
And breaks the game.
It has the active unseen where you just go invisible for 2 turns, which essentially means that you don't have to worry about any enemies for 2 turns.
You are vulnerable to damage and super effects, but
no one's gonna attack you.
No one
can't see you. Yeah.
So you'd have to stand next to like a barrel or stand next to someone getting hit by fire, and then they run into you. Literally, it never happened to us. Practically, maybe like once or twice the whole game.
But like most of the time, it never happened because again, enemies
don't know you're there.
Don't know you're there. They don't focus on you. They can't focus on you because you're just gone in their eyes. So you can do whatever you want, walk around, go to the goal if it's reach area, or get behind all the enemies and then just blast them with weapon or whatever. And
incredibly broken. Probably should not be in the game in its current state, but also incredibly fun, and I'm so glad they put it in the game.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
We had a lot of fun putting Edge with Ethering on, where we would run up to get the perfect boomerang toss where you hit like 3 or 4 enemies.
The blade toss, right?
Blade toss. You just stand out in the open, use Ethering so they don't see you, or you throw it, and then you're totally safe because they won't hit you. The reason we say it's so broken is it's 2 turns of no one seeing you, so they don't target you.
And it's only on cooldown, then 1 more turn after that.
Yes. and then you get to use it again.
And then on top of that, its passive Athletes increases on movability damage of 35%. Well, any character here that likes moving or has a lot of dashes, like Edge here,
or Maria or something
will
like
take great advantage of this.
Yes.
So not only can they take advantage of the fact that it's just a broken ability with being invisible for 2 turns, their damage just goes up. And then Edge's ability or her skill tree, which allows her dash ability to get even more stronger and stronger as she dashes, it's just an amazing spark for especially
I will
Edge,
say,
but pretty much any character. Because again, the active is just so good.
Yes, I will say Ethering's passive is probably its weakest point. Athlete is a decent passive, but if you remember, slides do like, let's say 500 damage or whatever, so it's only 35% of like the 500 or the 360, right? I think most characters do like 360.
Yeah.
She does more because of her slide increasing in damage, but Attack Master gives you 30% to a weapon-based damage, which most characters actually do way more. Let's say they're doing 1,000, now they're doing 300 more. You know what I mean? So like that's way more damage than 35 on 300.
Yeah.
So that's probably the weakest point of Ethering, but it doesn't really matter. It's still such a good ability.
Yeah. Such a good active.
We had many fights where if it's wait 8 turns, by turn 6 you use it, you've now won the battle. No one's going to see you.
Yep.
We've had boss fights where you can go up to the boss and get in great positions, or they can't see you, or you can maybe even block areas where they can't get to because your body's still physically there, but they can't target you.
Yep.
It's amazingly broken and definitely one of the top 3 or 4. There is another one I'm thinking of too. If we go down and to the left, Starburst.
Hey, Starburst is the very first spark you get in this game, and it's perhaps just the best one.
It's so hard in this game to choose like the best spark because Glitter has a great active that allows all enemies to gather together, and then you can defeat all of them in 1 turn. Ethering makes you go invisible, so for 2 turns you're practically immune to damage.
Heck, you even got things like Exosphere here with Fortify that reduces more than half the damage you take for 2 turns.
For 2 turns. That doesn't sound as broken as some of the other ones, but actually in conjunction with other abilities.
It can be combined with other abilities to be just to complete negation of damage taken and stuff like that. So
in fact, when Luby uses Weaken, which means the enemies do 70% less damage,
and then you combine it with Fortify, they just don't do any damage.
So it doesn't work as 70 times like 0.55 afterwards. It works as 70 plus 55.
Yeah, so it's just
they literally almost should take damage from their attack. They don't, but they do 0 damage.
Yeah, so he's really good in situations. But back to Starburst, it's just the active ability on this thing.
So Turbocharge
is so good.
13-meter range, but all that matters in this game is that you can run towards people, use a spark, and then run wherever else you want. Meaning that the AoE range is not as important as it would have been in, say, the previous game.
Yeah.
You run over, you turbocharge. The thing is, this is an AoE that hits all your allies. There's not many sparks in this game that actually affect all allies. In fact, this is not one of the few. There are a couple, but
the
defensive ones do. There's not many allies within range.
Yeah.
Sparks. This is one of them. And all allies deal 60% more damage. It's stupid. It's honestly just like stupid. That thing could say 20% more damage, and it still would have been a great spark.
Still would be a really good spark. Perhaps certainly not as broken as it is now, but it still would have
been a spark that you take on characters because it's so good. But they gave it 60%.
When it maxed out, 60% more damage.
With attacks and movement abilities.
Yep, so your weapons and your dash. And actually not even just dashes, like your stomps or your damage landings. Yeah, just
think of how we said 35% more.
All your techniques get boosted from it.
Yes. Yeah. Think how your athlete does 35% more damage on slide. This does 60% more. Now, athlete's passive, but on 1 turn when this is active, you're doing 60% more damage.
Yeah.
This thing is so stupidly overpowered. And we end up putting this on Luby. He would weaken, which means that they get vulnerable. They take 30% more. We would Starburst. Now our allies do 60% more damage.
So it's like, what, about 90%? I mean...
Yeah, we're essentially doubling damage.
The map should be about that, right?
We're essentially doubling damage on the enemies. And if Murray or whoever is coming in there to do 2,000, 3,000 damage on a hit, they're now doing 4,000 or 5,000 on a hit. And, with everyone grouped up potentially, you just destroy everything. And that's where Glitter comes in handy too. You pull all the enemies together.
Yep.
This has almost no weaknesses. Its passive is not very good, and
but it doesn't need to be anything that good because the active is just so good.
But even still, I would say its passive is better than the passive of like the element ones.
Yeah,
so
true,
it
true.
still has
I
a
get
use.
that. Yeah, true.
Anyways, this thing is stupid. It shouldn't be. We took it off our play about halfway through this game because it's so broken that we didn't even feel the need to use it. It makes the battles end in one turn.
Yeah.
The only downside is that there's no like downside to the spark at all. Actually, you maybe can't kill everyone in one turn.
3 turns
Three
cooldown.
turns is a little bit long, but no, all sparks have 3 turns at the minimum.
Most of them do. Yeah. Some are 4.
Oh, 2 turns at the minimum for the dash ones.
For the dash ones, yes.
Everything else is 3 turns and a couple of 4 turns.
And the ducks.
That last 2
sorry,
turns.
The effect last 2 turns. It's instead of 3 turns. Yeah, but the dashes
have a 2 turn cooldown.
Yep. But yeah, most of them have 3 turns cooldown. So that's not a big difference.
Yeah. So I mean, now we can talk about our. Oh, and then we can talk about the Kong one, which is an interesting one too. That was one of the last ones we got.
Like we looked at it real briefly
The
for the
Gargantuan
passive,
fan.
but the active is a little different from the summons, but because it's more similar actually to the AOE attacks.
It's actually more of a bounce. There's not bounce. Splash. It's actually like a splash AOE.
It's like this, except without the splash super effect.
Yes, it actually doesn't have splash, which is actually better. Because if an enemy was weak to splash, they would take more damage.
Sure, yeah. In that case, perhaps you use the splash one.
But this is essentially better because there's a lot of enemies that are resist, and this is just generic. The splash, the Rabbid Kong creates the wave. It sends them flying. They'll fly out of bounds. They'll fly off high ground. They'll fly in the air, and Luigi can shoot them.
And with reactive sight can shoot them, or they fall out of bounds or extra damage.
It ends up being a relatively useful ability. Not broken, but
it's an area wave attack, so it does also destroy cover around though.
Yep. And then it has once again, I don't know what they call it, healing booster, but increase your max HP. That's a unique one. No one else has that ability. As their passive.
Yeah, I don't.
No, I think everyone's got healing amplifier. I think that's the only healing boost.
Oh no, sorry, Genesis.
My fault. There you go, Genesis. Anyways, those are nice for random ones, but once again, because we tried not to take damage, we didn't need that so much.
But it's just there.
But it's there.
That's a fine passive.
And that is a lot of extra HP on certain characters. So yeah, we kind of liked Rabbid Kong or the Gargantuan fan. We used it in certain situations. I was really hoping this would be a summon and summon Kong the Rabbid Kong. That'd be cool. But
it's just the cameo.
Just the cameo. A good one, but not broken.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they introduced that one, and it's better than most of the elemental AoE ones.
Yeah.
So it kind of negates those even more.
Though you gotta be careful with it, as enemies that are resistant to splash are also resistant to being knocked back, because apparently the bounce in this game is all just splash.
Yeah.
There's not any bounce. It's just all splash, but this doesn't have the splash element attached to the bounce damage itself.
The elements in this game are different
yeah.
compared to how they were in the first game, and they I don't like the change actually to elements too much, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now if we talked a little bit through our favorites and best ones.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's kind of hard to say like what straight up is the best because certain situations call for better ones.
Yeah, you can kind of see the sparks we put on these heroes. These are kind of the ones that we kind of just locked into these heroes for most of it. Some will kind of switch around. Like for Bowser, we maybe give him instead of a crit buddy from Mario's line.
Yeah, we take a crit buddy from Mario. Yeah. So out of the summons,
Mario here wouldn't necessarily need this. He might get another attack or a movement one, perhaps.
He could do movement. He could do attack.
Right.
Out of the summons, at the end there, we got a summon Oozer. And the biggest downside to the summon Oozer is that it oozes the enemies, unfortunately.
But the best thing about it is that it also
it silences, and the next turn
it's disarmed.
It disarms.
No, disarms. It's weird. This first turn it disarms. Second turn it silences. I don't know why they put it in that order, because the disarm is the weapon lock. Silence is the technique lock.
Yes.
So
this is a really great spark. It has Attack Master as a passive, which is probably the best all-around passive in the game.
Yeah. So
every character can really use Attack Master. Certain ones use it better, but just increasing your damage flat out 30%.
So of the summoning sparks, this is probably the best one just because of that passive and the actual.
No, and I think the Oozer is the best.
Probably the best summon too. Yeah,
that,
just because of its
silence.
Its techniques, the disarm and silence.
Silence is broken,
and disarm can be quite useful too.
We saw against the boss with the Oozer, it would silence the enemy, so the boss literally couldn't attack that turn.
Or like with silence, well, no, they disarm them so they couldn't attack.
Disarm and then silence.
Silence, so they can use their technique. So yeah, it's Yeah, it can be really, really useful.
It can be really annoying. I think that was the best one.
Scoper's maybe next best.
Scoper's next best. It
And also with the Crit Buddy it's passive.
Crit Buddies
makes
are
it a really good spark.
Amazingly good passive. The argument actually would be that if you actually crit, you're doing more than an Attack Master bonus would be.
True, yeah.
But the thing is, Attack Master in general just increases your damage overall, even for crits.
Yep.
So I'd say Crit Buddy plays a little bit lesser a role than Attack Master.
Yeah.
But certain characters like Bowser do more.
Can benefit from the extra crit.
And yeah, that one would come in. It has no like real unique features to it, the sniper, but it comes in and gets a lot of free damage off every turn. It shoots for about 2, 6, 700s there, so it does about 1400 damage every turn. It would be pretty good about it until it couldn't see anyone or get further forward, and then it stops moving.
Yeah, and then it's lame.
Yep. So that would be our top two.
Yeah.
Oozer Master by far, I think, actually.
Yep, Oozer Master
clears
definitely, definite top for the master or summon.
The
sparks.
summon ones. Yep.
Okay. And then of the, what do you think? AoE? I guess let's go with AoE elements, maybe. Or
AoE elements,
yeah.
I would say, unfortunately, fire is not very good. You're immune to fire because you're holding onto the burn protector.
Yeah.
But the enemies all run around afterwards, which can make the follow-up kills a little bit annoying. They might run out of your slide range. They might run out of your gun range. Might run behind cover. We didn't really use the ice one too much. That prevents them from moving.
Yeah, it just keeps them in place, which can be good if you like certain enemies, like maybe Wild Claws or something like that. They're coming at you. You can stop them, and then they can't move.
Yep.
But it might just be better to use, a spark that can maybe just send them flying backwards and knock them out of bounds instead.
We tended to use gust ones or splash ones because if you knock them out of bounds, that's an extra... At the end of the game, it actually increased by level.
Yeah.
But that's an extra 650 damage. And that extra damage is pretty nice.
Yeah.
So we tended to follow for, like I said, the AoE splash. And that's why the Kong Cameo eventually kind of replaced a lot of the Zephyr quakes and things like that. We used lightning a couple of times. That can change between other people. But unless they're weak to it, it didn't seem like
too great.
Too great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the shock element and just in general, it didn't seem like it was a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
Didn't seem as good as you think it would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Toxic also was similar where it makes it so that they take more damage the next turn too again. But we kill enemies as quick as we can, so that wasn't amazing. Plus, enemies that are toxic, if you slide, you get toxic.
Yeah.
Which is by far the biggest
except for the hero
downside.
that has this on them.
Yeah.
The spark, but everyone else though has to avoid. Okay.
So once we kind of used a couple elements early on because that's all we had options to, once we got better sparks, we really never went back to these things too much.
Yeah.
So, sorry, guys.
And then what about the element sparks themselves? The ones that just give your weapons?
Same thing. You could swap them out depending on who is playing, like who's in the area.
That's probably what they're best for.
That's what they wanted.
Right.
But I will say with Peach, she's one of the only ones I think we actually gave weapon sparks to. We ended up going with Gust because, once again, you knock them out of bounds.
Yep.
And we end up going
I guess a Gust or perhaps maybe the Splash also be really good too. Maybe instead of Ooze.
Yeah.
But the Ooze one does quite a bit of damage.
No, it does.
Well, that's fine. But it's like also it's Ooze, so it does damage over time too. So it's like this one could be switched out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just the second one that because we figured Peach could benefit most from these type of sparks compared to most other ones.
Because her area hits multiple enemies with it.
But like you could put this one on instead, and they'd both be really fun on Peach because the shotgun blast also knocks it back
fly away.
Yeah, so either of these would be good. I'd say stuff like that.
You'll see things like, and then Vamp is really good. Vamp's actually probably one of the best elements, and you'll see it on a lot of her things.
Yeah, so this one
because Vamp is not an element.
Yeah,
why.
So of these element weapons, so this element giving weapon sparks.
Yep.
Something like that. This is the best one, I would say. Just because Vamp is no enemy resists Vamp.
Yep.
Plus, Vamp actually heals you a bit. And the Vampstra also comes with Crit Buddy.
Yes.
So that's a passive unique to these type of spark because all the other element sparks are just going to have these
protector ones
protectors.
On. Yeah, the Vampstra is the best one. As we said, bosses especially are what generally are hardest in this game.
Yeah.
And they are resistant to all elements. But Vamp is not an element, So,
it's
and then obviously Crit Buddy is a really, really great passive.
Yep.
So this ended up going on Mario. We actually didn't use this one too often because Mario didn't have chances to use actives.
Every so often
we would use it to heal up.
Right, but I mean, we're just using it for the passive on Mario. This way, with
If
both
he got,
these combined, he has 100% crit.
He had 100% crit. Or Bowser uses every once in a while.
Yep.
But the heal is only 30%, so it actually is not as much as you would think.
No, but it's there, which is nice.
Really using it for the Crit Buddy, it is one of the better ones. You can also see Edge has the Vamp Dash.
Yeah, so the other elements type sparks are the dashing ones. And yeah.
Same issue. They all have Protector on them. Same exact thing going on. But the Vamp one does not have Protector. It has Athletes.
Yeah, and there's actually not one for each element, I don't think.
No.
So you have Splash here, Shock, Gus, and then Vamp. That's it.
They're missing Ice.
Yep, Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are they missing an AoE too? Ice? No, they have an AoE Ice.
They have technically an AoE Ice with the Cryogeddon.
Yeah, okay.
But no, they're missing Ice and Fire dashes.
Yeah. Anyways, Vamp Dash has Athlete.
But Vamp Dash is the best because, so not only does it Vamp,
heal, it does more damage than the dash. It also Athletes. We actually use this spark all the time.
Yeah, especially with Edge, as you can see here, because Edge, again, utilizes these upgrades to movement abilities the best, I'd say.
Yeah, we wouldn't, because you can get 4. There's also an item we'll talk about later that gives you more dashes, and so we used this one a lot, not for the heals necessarily, but for the insane damage plus passive.
Yeah, because it's funny that it's a dashing spark that boosts itself already. When
it boosts itself already as soon as you equip it.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
So
it makes it really
good
strong.
one.
Yep. All right, so that out of that, then there's just the unique sparks, which we've already covered.
We talked a little bit about Pulsar and Regenesis. Those are kind of out in left field. These are healing based kind of ones.
Yeah, ones only can be. This thing is, this one can only be activated when a hero's
dead.
Dead on the battlefield.
The revive is actually crazy good.
Yeah.
The 70% of their max HP they get back. I mean, that is a crazy good. We never ended up needing this in battle. We tried it out for fun once. And it is good, but you have to have a whole strategy around letting your character die.
Yeah.
Which isn't a great strategy because when they're dead, they're not doing damage.
Right. Or I guess if you're going up against one of those giant boss battles, which are really difficult, and you're kind of worried you might actually lose a hero, having this spark
as a safety net is really good.
Yes, but you gotta be careful which hero you apply it to, because if the hero that faints with this, has a spark on them,
no one gets to use it.
No one gets to use it. So it's like best on someone like Petch, who can always heal themselves.
Or a super tanky character.
Yeah, that's true.
So Pulsar was interesting. Unique, I would not say that great, but
not that great
unique.
Because unique.
So you can use it.
And kind of same with Regenesis, but at least Regenesis is a little more useful with its active regen, because it's just a straight up heal over time.
Yeah. It is nice. They didn't want to give it heals right away because they gave mushroom items for that type of thing.
Right.
I will say
Pitch for heals too.
We didn't end up using this thing too much because once again it's all about heals.
And we're trying not to take damage while we dish out the damage, so we never really had too much use for this one. But it is, good because again, it's just there. You can to provide a hero support, especially to a hero that is going to be taking a lot of damage in battle, like maybe Mario, for example. If you're going to have him go up front and stand in the way of a bunch of enemies.
The reason this is good is like most turns. Let's say this costs an action point, right, to use the spark.
Yeah.
So first turn, let's say you're down to 30% health. You can use an item to heal it up, but then if you take damage next turn, you have to use another action points to heal up that damage again.
Yeah.
Regenesis would allow you to use that action point the first turn, and then the next couple turns you don't need to heal again because this will keep healing you. So this is good for extended battles with a character that you plan to just eat damage. But as we said, because we're on the hardest difficulty and because enemies do a lot of damage, even this 40%, which is really, really great.
Yeah.
Might not be enough to save you because some enemies will kill you in 1 or 2 shots.
Yeah, just a couple.
So
attacks,
if you're out, anytime we lost characters, generally because we got out of position by some kind of element or misjudged something,
and a couple enemies were able to shoot.
2 or 3 enemies shot one character and they died.
Yep.
So Regenesis wouldn't have saved them there either. Is the problem. So we didn't use Regenesis too much, but it is once again another unique one and not bad at that actually.
All right. So with all those other sparks out of the way, now we got pretty much the best of the uniques.
Yeah, we kind of talked through this already a little bit.
Right. And so we've already gone over. So we've already given our thoughts on like the best of these sparks. So that pretty much covers all of them. Essentially, you bring like glitter, aethering, or starburst into a battle, maybe like exosphere or reflector for some extra damage reduction.
Oh, one thing I want to point
pretty much
out.
Win the battle.
Yeah, is there are some weaknesses. Glitter is one of the best, and it has really great range. But if it is a large map, glitter is not as good because you cannot pull all the enemies together. In certain large maps, it did falter a little bit there.
But at the same time,
because it has Attack Master,
yeah,
Mario can just run around holding that thing and he's fine.
And you maybe don't need to pull all the enemies in. Like you just go to one side of the battlefield, pull all those enemies in.
Yep.
You clear them out, and then you have one half of the battlefield just for
taken
yourself.
out. Yep.
Yeah.
I will say one thing we did not really use, and maybe is way, way better than we're predicting. I think it might be, is Luigi's Reflector.
Yeah.
Because we gave Luigi this because he wants Attack Master. Because he does so much damage.
Yeah.
We don't give him Crit Buddy because if he's on high ground, he has guaranteed 100% crit.
Right.
So actually, Crit Buddy then goes to waste on him. So Attack Master is better on Luigi if you can get to high ground.
Yeah.
Reflector, though, we never almost ever used its active, except for just like, oh, we're not sure if anything's going to hit us as a free point.
Yeah.
But 6% of the damage obtained for the hero is reflected toward the enemy. Mario could definitely run around with glitter and reflector
instead. Yeah, Mario could also benefit from this
and
too.
run around and actually actively use reflector and try to take damage.
Yeah.
Because that whole turn, you would reflect all like 60% of the damage back.
Yep.
The problem is you would want to give him maybe like, let's say, a barrier first.
Yeah.
Then he takes no damage
and reflects
damage
bunch
back.
Of damage back. Yep.
We never really played it that way. I could see it being very, very good. The thing is, Luigi didn't use too many active sparks.
No.
And the other ones with Attack Master are the Oozer, which we got very late in the game.
Yeah.
Reflector and Glitter are the only Attack Master ones.
I mean, Luigi came with Reflector, so.
Yes. Oozer, he actually used quite often. The summon's really good. It's one of the best abilities in the game.
Yep.
Reflector, we almost never use except for things. And then we didn't want him to use Glitter because he does not want enemies near him.
Yeah.
He wants to be far away. So he never had Glitter on him, really.
Yeah.
Which is why he's got the other two sparks.
Yeah.
If we were constantly changing sparks all the time, I would say Mario maybe would want to look at potentially Reflector, Glitter.
Yeah.
And running that as an active. And because we were pretty passive about how we changed sparks all the time, Luigi just kept that on for himself.
Yeah.
I think Reflector actually could be quite a good ability, but I think it might need to be paired with a couple of things. Because just reflecting the damage is fine, but even Mario would die to several hits from monsters.
Yeah.
And then your Reflector does damage initially, but then it goes to waste.
Yeah.
So you would need to give him like an Exosphere or a Weaken. Can you imagine Luby with Weaken and Exosphere and Mario with Reflector on? He would take 0 damage and would reflect. But the thing is, once again, as opposed to letting the enemies come beat you up, you could just Starburst, Glitter, and go on the proactive ability,
right,
and take them all out.
Exactly. That was like our thought process for most of these battles.
So that's probably it's hard to rank these things because in certain situations, other sparks are better than other ones. I would say generically, Starburst is probably so useful that it's hard to put it anywhere else.
It can be used in any battle, any scenario, and it's just good. Yeah.
Same
with Ethering. Honestly, any scenario, it's just good.
It's honestly just good, even if you don't need it. The only ever downside would be is the character that goes invisible. The enemies now focus only on the other 2 characters alive.
There's a little issue because focus gets redirected to everyone else
because they don't see this one.
Yeah,
but there's almost never any downside to using Ethering. I would still say it's slightly more situational than Starburst, which is literally as soon as it's up, you might as well use it.
Anytime, every time.
Because you
Starburst
just do more damage.
For the extra damage. And then there's Glitter.
And Glitter's really good. Of course, against maybe some bosses, you might not want to pull them closer. But in general,
enemies gather together for easy dashes, AoE attacks.
The reason Mario likes this
even
is
spark attacks.
He's got short range, and we talked earlier about his boom dash, essentially from the earlier game.
Yeah,
it's back in this one. You glitter them all together. Now your boom dash.
I mean,
instead of hitting just one enemy, hits maybe 4, 5 enemies. We've seen it hit.
Yep.
And you dash 2 enemies. You've just done like 2,000 damage in dashes to enemies.
Yeah.
And then you turn around and punch them, and everyone's gone.
Yep.
So it clears.
putting glitter on Muriel makes sense too, because this was Muriel's ability from Kingdom Battle.
He wants it back.
His groove, right? His groove magnet.
Yep.
Yeah. So we just gave it back to him, and it worked great on him. So there you go.
Overall, sparks are pretty cool. I do like they let you switch in and out to different characters. It allows characters to play a little bit more however you want them to be.
Pretty good, especially the ones that have like unique attributes to them, like summoning allies or giving certain attributes to heroes, like turn invisible.
What I wish they did is, I wish instead of splitting the elements up, maybe they instead of a dash and a weapon, maybe it just was like, this increases all damage you do as an element type.
Yeah.
In the previous game, elements were just baked into weapons. That made it easy, but it also made certain characters bad because they might have had bad elements attached to their weapons. Peach, for example, had fire and ice, so she was not very good.
Here, you can give her good elements.
And Luby had vamp and stone, so he was really good in the last game. They took that away and they gave it to Sparks. I think it's okay, but what ends up happening is certain characters just never have a chance to use Sparks, and the enemies just don't react enough to element damage. So elements got pretty heavily nerfed in this game.
Yeah.
Most enemies don't even throw out elements too much at us anymore either.
A couple of them do, but not.
I will say in the other game, I was terrified of certain elements when we play against them or use elements against them. In this game, we just didn't care. Hide behind cover and fire back at them.
Right.
Damage.
Yeah, because the enemies wouldn't try to get to a spot where they could. Not usually they wouldn't try to get to a spot where they use their element on us effectively.
Yeah.
Usually it's just they hit cover and that was it.
And I think that about wraps up Sparks for us. I mean, overall, they're kind of neat. I think that it takes a long time to get all the good ones you want. It's about through World 3 or 4.
Yeah.
At that point, you're finally got enough Sparks to hit all your heroes with good ones.
Yep.
The longest time we had to either switch out between every battle if we switched heroes.
Yeah, that was a little annoying. Like again, as we said with like the team, maybe like if you have like
you have 3 characters you always use. You give them your 6 Sparks. And then
or like you have what is it? It's just like a loadout. You could always just
they should have loadouts.
Yeah, loadouts for Sparks and
they should. Yeah. If you were playing with the same 3 heroes the whole time, you'd pick your same 6 Sparks, and then the game would be pretty straightforward.
That's true. I guess you could go that way.
We switched all the time, so it got pretty annoying for us. But overall, I kind of like Sparks. I just wish there was more interesting actives, more things that either summons were kind of cool, but more things just unique. I'm not a game designer, so I don't know, can't think off the top of my head, but things that might have done some cool abilities to shift the battlefield, something unique. I mean, heck, imagine a Spark that raises 4 tiles up in the air.
Yeah.
I mean, that gives you immediate high ground, you know? I don't know, something like, or one that maybe lays a trap down on the ground that enemies get locked into if they fall into it, or something. I don't know, you know what I mean? Just like...
I mean, again, as our best Sparks here are the ones that are like the most unique.
Yes, the more unique ones are more fun.
Yep, and they turn out to be the better Sparks too in the end. They also, I mean, either because their actives are good, or their passives are good, or just because they are unique, that just makes them good.
I wonder if they didn't need to put passives, it actually changes which Sparks you use quite a bit. I wonder if it just actives would have been enough, but that also then would have made it pretty interesting what you do or don't have with you. So, because then I think you actually use a lot more of the element ones.
Yeah.
If there's not
the
passives,
because
nothing has a passive.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's interesting that there is passives. I like some of it. It does make characters better. Like for example, double crit actually gives you 60% crit. So now a character like Bowser, who had no low crit before, now does decent crit and can actually do damage. Mario, we can give 100% crit.
Yep.
In fact, Rabbids has up to 80%, so she can
with their skill tree, and then one more crit buddy, and it's also
actually gives her 110. So she's then maxed out in crit. So yeah, some fun things like that.
Yeah.
But cool, that'll wrap up our Spark discussion, and we'll go to the next world and talk about items.